Hi, there is an aspect of the Dillon 1050 that's not really well understood by people who don't own one, and I suspect perhaps not well understood by some people who own one. And that involves station 3, where the brass feeds in as 1, sizing is 2, and this one is 3. And what that is the crimp remover. Because on military brass, the primers are usually crimped in. And if you don't remove that crimp, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to put a new primer in. So this takes care of that. But there's a question. Number one, what is this crimp that we all hear about? Early on in my reloading, I was told about it, and I still didn't understand it. They pointed, I just don't see it. I wasn't clear about it. And then the next thing is, when you adjust for it, how do you know when you've got it right? Or do you have enough, or do you have too much? So that's what we want to look at today. Let's begin our journey with a little bit of anatomy. Here's a 223 case that I've cut open. And 223 is what I'll be loading over there. So this is as good as any. This is the head end, and this is the primer pocket. This is where the primer goes. And on one that's never been crimped, these edges right here have a nice not a chamfer, but a fillet that's just a nice rollover right there, very smooth entry. And then the primer sits in this pocket. This is the flash hole where the primer's flame will go into the combustion chamber right here. And incidentally, this is the thickest part of any rifle case, well, I guess any case of any kind, right here at the head, across the flash hole, because the highest pressure is going to occur down here at the bottom initially. And so a lot of times people will take a micrometer reading across from that point to that point and compare it between a fresh factory case that's never been fired and a fired case. And if there's any expansion more than about a 0.5 then you've got too much pressure. Well, that's sort of a general rule of thumb, and a lot of testing has shown it's not 100% reliable, but it's what people do. Now let's look at a pair of cases that we can use to distinguish what is crimped and not crimped. Both of these are 308 military brass. This is a Lake City from 1982, and it's a national match. And as such, the primer was never crimped into it. And that's about the only exception in military ammo is match ammo. Here's a standard 308 or 7.62 NATO, and it's a Remington Arms 1970, has the NATO proof mark on it. Now, here's what you want to look for. You probably already spotted it. Looking around the mouth of the cartridge, you see this is smooth, whereas this has a secondary ring. And what it is where it's been punched with a tool in the reloading process that distorted the rim of the case right here and trapped the primer down inside. And as a consequence, that's made that opening too small, and a new primer won't go in there, so we've got to get rid of it. So in order to determine if things are correct between our two cases here, this one being crimped, this one not, we've got these gauges, and they're go, no-go gauges. This one is for small primers, and this one's for large. And this end is the go, so it's supposed to go into the hole, and if it doesn't, there's a problem. This is a no-go, and it's not supposed to, and if it does, there's a problem. So let's look at it here with the national match, and the go gauge goes right in there, and the no-go does not. And if we go over here to the crimped case, neither one of them will go. That's the one that should. That's the go gauge, and the no-go is no-go. So So that's what tells us what we have to do, and this is the tool that we have to use in order to properly adjust the machine. Here we have 3 military rounds, and they've been fired just one time, and so the crimps are still in place. I think we'll find out right here. Knock the primers out, and we'll just do all 3, and then we'll check them using the gauge, the go and no-go gauge. And those come from a company called Ballistic Tools. And it's a wonderful device. And they also have a set of gauges to use to check case mouth. All right. Wrong. Yep, this is the right one. So this is, I can't remember. One's go, one's no go. We'll find out in a second. Oh, obviously that's not it. Oh, what am I doing? I'm doing the wrong end. Okay. Brain fart. All right. Yep. That one went in there. So that one has obviously been fixed. Yeah, so is that one. So these have been loaded more than once. And so can't use these to test the machine. On the other hand, I have plenty of them where it will not go either way. So we can use that one, and oops, maybe that one. Nope, that one works. So I'll get a few more that we can use to test the machine. Now, I've moved in very close on the machine, and you'll see that a punch comes up from below, right there. At the same time, a part comes down from above to hold the case down. And these two work in concert to clear out that primer pocket. The punch is what does the work on the primer pocket. Let's use this cutaway cartridge so we can see what's happening. See, that punch is going to come up in there. Well, I've got it adjusted way down right now where it doesn't even begin to go up in there. And let me show you how it's adjusted. Here's how it works. Pay attention to that down there. See how it's moving up and down? This is an eccentric arm right here. And it's making this cam follower, I guess you'd call it, go up and down at the bottom of the stroke. And the rod right here is what's going up to the top. It becomes the punch at the top of this rod. And that's what's doing the work. And it's threaded so that you can screw it up and down. Let's take a look close. Alrighty, we've got the cutaway case in there, and I did screw it down a little bit. So it's going up inside, and you can see when I turn it how it moves up in there. And that may be enough. Let's get one and find out. Let's get this out of there before it indexes. All right, this is the case that we checked earlier and determined, well, wait a minute, with the case gauge that it's too big. So let's give it a try. Oh, it's pushing hard. I think I got it way too far. And this is one of those things you want to sneak up on. And yep, it goes right down in there now. The big one doesn't go, so I didn't completely, the large size doesn't go, so it's not completely overdone. But that one goes up in there. And actually, kind of a nice fit. So, theoretically, that's it in one go. I think I would prefer to do it in increment. I'll just sit down right here and do this. I would normally sit to do this. run that down a little ways. I got another case that the gauge will not go into. So let's try it. And as I said, we'll do, I'm sorry, it's that end that should go. We'll do trial and error until we get it to work. Give it about a half a turn. And did not go. Make sure I'm using the right end. Let's give it another half turn. Or about. Ah, I felt it that time. I felt a little bump. And it's kind of trying to go in there, but not going in there just yet. Let's give it a half, well, a third of a turn, whatever that is. Yeah, I could feel it that time. So we try it. No go. Still won't go. Okay. You want to do enough, but you don't want to do too much either, because you're distorting the brass if you do too much. So no. Yeah, I felt it pretty strong that time. And there it goes. Success. So we crept, is that a good word? Crept up on it. And we'll probably should add just a touch more for good measure. I wouldn't do much more. And then down here at the bottom, you need a 1/2" wrench and a 7/16. And 7/16 holds the rod, and the 1/2 tightens the jam nut, and that's it. So now we are readjusted. Let me find one more. Let's see what happens. All right, I got 3 that the gauge pin will not go into. Double check. All right, so let's do all 3 of these and see what happens. There's one. Sort of like the world's most elaborate single stage press right now. All right, 3. And the moment of truth. Ta-da. Right down in there. I guess you can see that. That goes down in there. And here's the second one. Try this. Yep. And of course the no-go, it won't go. Kind of tried to go. That goes. Nice snug fit and won't go. So I think we're done with our adjustment here. And so that's the story of the Dillon crimp removal feature on the 1050. And one of the reasons that this machine is so good for reloading military stuff in volume, it takes care of a major problem. Incidentally, we'll get into this in a future session, I'm getting set up here to process about 2,000 rounds of 223, and it's a mixed bag, and that's why I was, over there. Some of it crimped, some of it not crimped, some commercial, whatever. And what I'm doing here, it's kind of an interesting thing. This is what I would call brass processing or pre-processing. So what I'm doing is sizing the brass, trimming it to length, and then getting it ready to be reloaded. The neck flared just slightly with a special M die. And I've got the Dillon trimmer on here. And that's all I'll do with this, and just, run them through. And it's interesting that Dillon just last month, I guess, or 2 months ago, came out with a 1050, so to speak, dedicated to brass processing. It does not have a priming feature on it, which is fairly complex and adds a lot of cost to the thing. So they were able to cut a few $100s off of it, because a lot of people, I wouldn't, because I don't do that kind of volume, but a lot of people who do commercial reloading will dedicate machines to pre-processing the brass, and that's all they're doing with them. So now they can get a machine that's totally suited for that. We'll see that in the future. Meantime, thank you for watching. If you like it, of course, check that you did, share it, subscribe. Thank you.